yesterday. One of our favorite articles came out in Sports Illustrated. Connor Orr delivered 100 bold predictions. Here's one that we're going to dig in on. Buy or selling? Connor Orr's idea that Kyler plays his last snaps for the Cardinals this year.
I like this idea. Connor, listen, Connor's 100 bold predictions article every year is a great one. Also because you can always just find things to get mad at because it's 100 bold predictions.
He's like, this is bold.
Yeah, like what do you want from me?
Right.
I think I might have even put him on the board a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
for one of them. But after this year, they can cut or more likely trade him, and it doesn't kill him cap-wise, actually gives him cap relief. I think that Kyler is going to be a guy that if he's healthy all year, there will be teams that can talk themselves into him. And I think that the Cardinals might feel like, all right, we've seen him his whole career. We know who he is and who he isn't. And at that price point, it doesn't make sense for us. So I buy this because I don't think the Cardinals are all of a sudden going to be back in the playoffs. And so I think this is a smart take and an interesting take, and I honestly kind of wish I had thought of it first.
I'm buying it as well. It'll be his 7th year.
Yeah, I know.
Like, 7th year. It still feels, I know he was hurt a little bit, but it feels like, wow. Like,
It feels like he's young 'cause he's small.
It feels like he's a lot younger. And I think if he plays the whole year, I think he'll show flashes. He always does. I think he'll have great moments, and I think he'll be completely up and down. And I do think that the team and Kyler will need like a fresh start. So I agree that if it won't hurt them financially for the most part, they can move on. But I think I think Kyler might go somewhere else and I'm not saying becomes like one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but go somewhere and has success and resurrects a team. So I wouldn't be down on the team that picks him up or trades him, whatever it is.
Future Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, that's what.
I beat you to it, Connor.
Oh, you got it.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Okay, well, so let's talk about this because to me, this is more about the Arizona Cardinals as an organization than it's Kyler Murray individually. But Kyler Murray for sure contributes to this, mainly his relationships more than anything. Cliff Kingsbury is an awesome offensive coordinator. Now, you can question his ability to be a great head coach and whatnot. That's fine. But Kyler also did not get along with him. And they were having a ton of success, especially early on. And then they started to deal with injuries, both to other players as well as Kyler Murray. And everything unraveled. And they said, okay, let's just get rid of it all, right? The GM left. Cliff Kingsbury had a one-way ticket to like Thailand or something. And everything just kind of imploded. Then they hired the Eagles defensive coach, and that's why I'm excited I want to bring up the Eagles as an example as well with this to see how you could have done things very differently. And now you have Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury having a ton of success together. Make no mistake about it, as special as Jaden is, Cliff Kingsbury was a huge contributor as to why they were able to get to the NFC Championship game and why Jaden Daniels was able to have the year that he was, able to have. And if there was just more organization within the organization and more leadership and more understanding of how things can go and what you have and what you don't have, you can look at the Philadelphia Eagles with Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. And they got a lot of pressure. There were people making similar statements like this. Nick Sirianni needs to be fired. He should have been fired after 2023 going into 2024. And then you had big media members from the Philadelphia Eagles saying Jalen Hurts can be Carson Wentz. Like he could just be shipped out. And even in the beginning of the season, there was pressure to move on from Sirianni. And the Eagles really did the opposite. They said, we are going to do everything we can to support this man. We are going to do everything we can to support Sirianni and support Jalen Hurts. We're going to go out and get some extra weapons. We're going to go out and get awesome coordinators. We are going to get one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. So Nick Sirianni doesn't have to even think about the defense for even the tiniest bit of a second. And it directly led them to having one of the most dominant runs and Super Bowl wins of all time. Like that's what it takes. And the reality is that actually could have been the Cardinals to a degree. Now make no mistake about it, Jalen Hurts is wildly mature. He is just a man's man and is just way wise and mature beyond his years. Like that is just one of his big things that he has going for him. Kyler needed some maturity. And listen, I don't care about the games and stuff like that. Like I'd rather you be playing games than you closing out, clubs, quite frankly. Like there's plenty of players who are always getting in trouble and doing weird stuff. And so, I appreciate, I'll take a Kyler Murray personality in that regard over many, 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 many other. But, being able to get along and go through the ups and downs with a coach or a locker room in general is important. And the reality is that the Cardinals could have gone through some of these growing pains with Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray, did a better job to support the team, not only from a coaching staff perspective, but as well as a roster perspective. And they could have continued. They had a ton of success early on. At one point, they were the number one seed. They were like 8. I think at their peak when they were really at their best, when they were really connected, they were like 8-1, 9-1. Then I think Kyler Murray got injured. I think it was on like a Monday night game or something. I remember him like slamming his helmet down as he was like kind of limping, and like things kind of just unraveled. And rather than staying the course and realizing, hey, we got a great young quarterback, we got a great young offensive-minded head coach, things are a little messy. Maybe Cliff Kingsbury's not the best head coach. Let's bring in we got to bring in a couple other coaches on this staff. We got to bring people who have experience. We need to make sure that Cliff Kingsbury never even has to worry about the defense at all. We got to make sure that Cliff and Kyler are on the same page. There's just other ways to kind of go about it, and they didn't necessarily do that. They just didn't, and then things kind of just continued to get a little bit messy, a little inconsistent. I don't know how much has Kyler Murray really developed over these years now. I mean, has he? Not necessarily. And I think Kyler Murray's a really good quarterback. He's a really good quarterback who shows flashes of like, oh my God. Kyler Murray, I put in the category when you see him play, there's certain plays where you're just like, that might have been one of the best plays I've ever seen in my entire life. But, that can only get you so far. Just because you can show some of those flashes doesn't mean that is who you are to your core, and that you're just going to kind of keep winning and winning and winning. So, yeah, I mean, does that mean that you move on from Kyler Murray? I don't know, and this is the problem with the Cardinals. It's how much faith do you have in the franchise? How much faith do you have in the organization as a whole and the decisions that they make? Because I would say that over the years, they've made some poor decisions. They made some great decisions. And they've even made some courageous decisions. Even just drafting Kyler Murray after you had already drafted someone the year before is courageous. Not a lot of teams are willing to make those moves. So it's like on one side, I think they made some really smart decisions. On the other side, I'm just kind of like, you kind of fumbled this a bit. And then my question is let's say you didn't have Kyler Murray as your quarterback. Let's say you move on from him. Let's say you're in a position where you move on from Kyler Murray. Let's say you get some decent, you get something decent in return, and now you're going to be drafting. Let's just give a perfect, a mega ideal scenario. You're drafting top 5, okay, and you draft a quarterback. What does that do for you? Why are things going to be different? That's what I then ask. Why are things going to be different? Why are you now going to be a better team? Would your team truly be a playoff and Super Bowl contender if Kyler Murray was just simply a better quarterback? I mean, it's not so clear to me. It's really not. If there's other stuff about Kyler that the Cardinals know more about, personality, leadership, work ethic, etc., that's something different than obviously just pure on the field play. And I know I made videos before about Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury, and a lot of Cardinals fans tried to downplay that a little bit, and I understand that, but it's just not my take. That's just not my take, and I made a lot of videos talking about that, especially when Cliff Kingsbury went to the Commanders with Jaden Daniels very early on. And I that is something, relationships do matter, and that is something that Kyler Murray, needed to improve upon. And I'm not saying that it's still an issue. I'm not the type of person who's like, Kyler Murray has an attitude problem and he's not a leader and this and that and he plays video games. Like, that's not my take either necessarily. But it does make me question if they were able to kind of go through some of these growing pains with Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury, what could be? You know, and could the Cardinals have done a better job to support this, to help both parties understand what needs to be done and to support both Kyler and Cliff Kingsbury through roster, through coaching staff, etc., etc. You know, there were options. Heck, you realize you could have brought Dan Quinn potentially to be your defensive coordinator with the Arizona Cardinals, with Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray. Essentially reverse of what they're doing in Washington. I mean, think about it. Like, that was technically on the table. It was. So, I don't know. It's just interesting. I mean, go to their Wikipedia page for their 2022 season, and there's a section just organizational drama. I was gonna read it, but there's some. I try to keep these videos PG-13, and there's just some language in there that I don't want to go through the whole process of editing out. But it was kind of a disaster, from players getting in fights, getting suspended, coaches being fired, if you remember, because I think that was even during their Hard Knocks time. And then they were decimated with injuries. Like, that team got decimated with injuries. They had all these other problems, and they said, okay, let's just kind of fire everyone. And it's just like, the year before, you made the playoffs when you were healthy, still had some issues, but made the playoffs. You ended up losing to Los Angeles Rams, who ended up winning the Super Bowl, by the way. You know, don't let a down year just be the absolute downfall of everything, especially when you were, again, decimated with injuries. You probably could have kept it going with Kingsbury and Vance. Or, again, you try to make a different decision here. You try to, you try to make, moves. Because it's not like, even, when I was using my example about defensive coaches and stuff, it's not like that they were even in, like, the worst possible situation. I was just trying to point out that there's just potentially other moves that you could have made before you kind of hit maybe like a more nuclear option, is all what I was trying to point out. But yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. But like I said, the organization deserves some blame, and Kyler does himself. Because he absolutely was like calling out Cliff Kingsbury, calling out the schemes, complaining, this, that, and third. And then you look at Jaden Daniels, who's having wild success with him and has just nothing but positives praising him, etc., etc. That is on Kyler Murray. It just is. He deserves some of the blame for that. So it's just it's a messier situation than it needed to be. However we want to look at it. And so that all leads me to say, is this Kyler's last year in Arizona? It leads me to say, I don't know, because I don't trust how this team is run. And if, like I said, if they move on from Kyler, tell me why things will be different. And if they keep Kyler, tell me why things will be different. This does feel like a pretty make or break year, but I don't even know what that means at this point, because let's say the Arizona Cardinals have an awesome year and they win the division and they go to the playoffs and they get knocked out in the divisional round. Let's not even go as far as the NFC Championship game. And Kyler Murray kind of has a rough game in the divisional round. Not bad. He has almost a similar game to that of Lamar Jackson, right? Kind of wonky first half, pretty good in the second half. It's like, what do you do with that? Do you still need to upgrade at quarterback? Do you need to improve? Should you move on from him? His stock is at an all-time high right now. The Pittsburgh Steelers might give an arm and a leg. It's like, what do you do? Or are you like, well, you know what? We don't want to move on from him. He showed what he can do. We like what, the new coaching regime is doing right now. It's just like, what do you, how do you build off of that? Do you believe you can build off of that? It's like, really, is your conclusion that you can win a Super Bowl with Kyler Murray? If the answer is yes, well, then obviously you're not going to move on from him. If the answer is no, well, then you move on from him immediately. So it's just like, what conclusions are you still looking to draw right now? And every year that you come up short, how are you diagnosing why you're coming up short? Is it Kyler? Is it the roster? Is it injury luck? Is it coaching? You have to troubleshoot. You have to figure that out. The Eagles, perfect example. When they won in 22, lost in 23, they didn't diagnose Jalen Hurts as a problem, Sirianni as a problem. They diagnosed, we need to improve our roster. We need better coordinators. They improved their roster. They got better coordinators. They won the Super Bowl. Diagnosing the problem, that's step one. So it's just, buy or sell. Kyler's last year in Arizona, diagnose the problem. What has been the problem for the Arizona Cardinals? You figure that out, you get there. And I'm curious, Cardinals fans, what do you think the problem has been throughout this entire timeline of, let's just make it very basic, Kyler Murray's year 1 to year, whatever it is officially now? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're all on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.